right, people, listeners of Heavy Metal History, we are back again with another episode of the podcast. Joining me, I have three guests this week. I have Jeremy Harlan, Justin Mazlik, and Kyle Mazlik, all members of the band Sunmancer. Guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad I finally got you on. Sorry it took a long time.
Thanks for
Oh
having
yeah.
us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. Yeah, it was it's cool that we met you randomly and here we are. Now we're on here.
Yeah, I guess a little backstory here for the listeners. I think talking to you guys and Fred at that show that we were all at kind of like reinvigorated me to kind of like get the podcast up and running again, like getting that idea back out there and starting it all up and doing it again. And sorry, it took a long time, but I kind of wanted to wait till the new year to kick it off instead of waiting until like, the end, like November, December and doing all that. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got you guys on. It worked out because the EP came out and now we can like kind of talk about everything that's out there now.
Yep.
So the thing, I know I told you guys this, the thing that I like to start off with, obviously, is everybody's like personal heavy metal history. Those records and bands that you remember, even if they aren't like fully metal, like punk, metal adjacent stuff, that's fine too, because I think it all kind of like ties together. Those things you remember kind of getting you into the genre and where you're at now. So let's start with Kyle. Tell me about those records and everything that you kind of remember listening to that got you into the genre.
So when I got into Power Man 5000, that was like the first heavy band or heavy-ish band that I got into when I was in middle school. Justin, we're brothers, and he was always way cooler than me. And he was doing band stuff way before I did. But what actually got me into wanting to play guitar was System of a Down's Toxicity. I remember hearing the song Chop Suey and falling in love with it, and that was my favorite band for years. So I begged for a guitar for Christmas, got an acoustic, and learned as many songs as I could on acoustic. I remember learning what drop D and drop C were, and yeah, it just went from there. Then fell in love with the band Killswitch Engage, and
Oh yeah,
they're still, I'm a diehard fan of that band. I would love one day to be able to work with Adam D, but that's kind of a pipe dream. But you can hope. Then I got into, they're not heavy at all, but Coheed and Cambria. I was a big fan of them.
yeah.
I really like their epic style choruses. I've always aspired to want to like write something like that. I don't think that I've hit that yet, but maybe one day. But really, it's compared to Jeremy and Justin, I guess my love for bands is so like tunnel vision. I think I have on rotation like 4 or 5 bands, while they both love like 20 or 30 bands. So like I'm a huge fan of the Black Dahlia Murder. Been following them since Unhallowed? Is that the name of the record?
Yep.
Yeah, been in love with them since then. Really, really like the band Counterparts. But yeah, it was really System of a Down and Killswitch Engage who got me into playing metal. And that and Lamb of God's As the Palaces Burn album was incredible.
Yeah. I think man, yeah, that album still holds up pretty damn well. I mean, all those albums you mentioned and bands, I think it seems like you gravitate more towards like the melodic aspect of a lot of those bands. And I mean, I can hear that in the music that you guys write, with a lot of the guitar parts. And I appreciate some melody, you need that in music, in metal, especially. Like a lot of bands who just go for like the more rhythm based stuff. That's fine. That's good. I enjoy that too. But man, I love me some melodies. It goes a long way in music.
Yeah, I really like the up tempo, kind of unrelenting songs. And if you can throw melody in there, I thought that's what Black Dahlia Murder was really good at, is really heavy, intense songs that were melodic. And then of course, Killswitch as the big epic like radio friendly choruses, but man, they've got some cool riffs too. So yeah, I'd agree with you. I like the melodic aspect of metal. Like I've never really been able to get into the bands that are just, balls to the wall all the time. But not saying anything against them. It just wasn't, it wasn't what, I was really into, but I can certainly respect that.
Yeah, I get that. It's definitely the technical, super crazy melodic stuff is a whole beast of its own for sure. And I mean, sometimes I listen to it and I'm just like, how do they even write this stuff? Because it's just like way beyond my comprehension of guitar playing and composition kind of stuff too. But I mean, I love hearing it.
Happens to me
It's
too.
like, man. So Justin, what about you? What was your kind of gateway into everything?
It's probably like new metal stuff. When I was in high school in like the late 90s, there was obviously Korn and Limp Bizkit and all that stuff was big. But when I first heard Around the Fur by Deftones and I heard My Own Summer, that just like blew me away. And it like literally made me like want to do what Chino was doing. I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to at least take a shot at it. So I was pretty adamant about trying to be in a band and trying to do like just whatever I could do back then. You're in high school, so you're just playing in little garages or living rooms or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just went from Deftones to Glassjaw to Vision of Disorder to like Dillinger Escape Plan. I mean, it just kept growing. I just kept finding new stuff like Kill Switch. I got into Alive or Just Breathing. That's when I showed it to Kyle. Obviously, Kyle fell in love with that.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just I was all about trying to find new music, like new heavy bands that were like Kyle said, like melodic, and gravitate more like a lot of singing as far as and screaming too. So yeah, it's just Glassjaw probably and Deftones were like my biggest influences, like in the beginning, and then I think it's just anything that I was like getting my hands on that I was really enjoying. I was like I just had a bit like Kyle said, I had a lot of bands I was into, but I always went back to those bands.
Yeah, I think man, Glassjaw is not a band I hear mentioned often, which is surprising because that band's great. But I mean, they only put out like what 2-3 albums,
Yeah,
and then
they had like 2 albums in the beginning, like Everything You Ever Want to Know About Silence and Worship and
yes.
Tribute. Then they came out with like a bunch of like I guess B-sides, and then they just didn't really do much. And then they came out with like another set of B-sides and another like random like EP like 10 years later. Yeah, they're a little sporadic, but I caught them whenever they were like in the prime, like right when Worship and Tribute came out, and I was like trying to see them any chance I got. Like I was living down in Tampa, I'd see them there. I had a girlfriend in St. Louis. I'd go to St. Louis to see them. I'd go to Atlanta to see them. I was just trying to see them as much as I can, just because I was in love with that band so much.
You sound like me with Dillinger Escape Plan, man. I was always like going because you mentioned them. I was always going wherever I could to see them. Like they were like one of my favorite bands. I'd be like, oh, they're in Atlanta, cool. Oh, they're in Nashville, cool. Oh, they're in Knoxville, cool. We're going.
Yeah, I saw them open for it was like Norma Jean, Dillinger Escape Plan, and Mastodon.
Yeah.
In like 2002, I think 2003. No, it was probably 2004. It was like when Greg was still like blowing fire at 43% burn in the breakdown, and it was just nuts because we're in like this little like venue in Orlando. I think it was like the Social or something like that. And
okay.
Yeah, it was just crazy seeing that because I guess like they couldn't really do that anymore because like Great White set a venue on fire, so he couldn't do that anymore inside of a venue. But just seeing him blowing fire out of his lungs into the pit while that breakdown's just going nuts, it was insane.
Yeah, this is kind of a tangent here, but I remember a few years ago, Rammstein was coming through Atlanta, and like they have a lot of pyro in their show, and I heard that they weren't going to be able to do any of it because of that same thing you mentioned with that club fire that happened. So they were like considering canceling the show because they couldn't do the pyro, and it's like I thought I get it's part of your show, but man, like people want to be safe. They don't want to catch on fire and get stuck inside a damn venue.
Yeah, I saw that. Was it Bella Meyer, that show like a couple days ago? One of the PAs caught on fire and they had to cancel the show.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
it's
was during the Angel Maker set or whatever. But I
Yeah.
saw other guys on the tour, the guys from Alluvial were like, damn, I wish that happened during our set.
yeah. I mean, I wonder what made it pop, like whether it was just like old equipment or the fact that it was just like heavy shit they were playing. But man, that's a rarity. You see something like that. So
Dude,
watching that video,
I
oh,
saw that show last Sunday and saw
uh-huh.
Angel Maker, and dude, it was just pure badassery is what set that on fire. They were fucking crazy.
Well, hey, so that voice that you all are listening to, or if you're happen to be watching it, that's Jeremy. So, Jeremy, we're gonna move on to you now, man. Let's talk about your personal heavy metal history with everything.
Sure, man. Yeah, mine's pretty traditional trajectory. I started out pretty young. I got Metallica Master of Puppets, the CD, and blasting that on my actual boombox in my bedroom, probably like 9 years old. I hadn't even heard like Enter Sandman or really recognized any of the radio hits, but so my first introductory to them really and thinking about it was the opening to that album, which is Battery, the acoustic guitar opening, super epic, super badass. But went from there to like Pantera, Slayer, Megadeth, that kind of stuff. And then once I started kind of playing with bands in the early 2000s, it was like metalcore was the big thing. So playing with different guys kind of got me into listening to like Lamb of God, Ashes of the Wake, All That Remains, This Darkened Heart, and Fall of Ideals, Unearth, Oncoming Storm, and Trivium Ascendancy. I kind of like took a lot of as far as like my guitar style and like what I was learning from those records specifically, kind of ran with that. Then moved into kind of the more progressive stuff, Born of Osiris, Veil of Maya, Periphery, um, and then the death metal stuff. Kind of like Justin, it's like I'm kind of all over the place with how many bands that I like, but
Yeah.
death metal stuff was like Black Dahlia Murder, Nocturnal. I really like with a lot of bands. I see this thing where it's like there's like 3 albums in a row that I really like. So it'd be like Miasma, Nocturnal, and Deflorate. Like I really love those records. And then like Job for a Cowboy, like I like the Gloom EP and Ruination, and just like blocks of where bands are playing.
Yeah.
And it'll be like a 8-year time span where they're just like really hitting something that I like. But nowadays I'm listening to Rivers of Nile is probably like my favorite new band. Can't wait for them to come out with something new. And Alluvial, another great
Yeah.
band. Only one record out, well, 2 records out now. They got a full length and an EP, but new EP that just came out in January is pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, and that little guest spot that Wes did on that Enterprise Earth album, man, it's fucking
Oh
it's
yeah, I
sick.
just heard that for the first time the other day. Enterprise Earth is a band that I see around, but I never really listened to them. And it popped up just on Spotify as I was listening. I think I was listening to the new Aborted.
Yeah. God damn.
Dude, that I'm super stoked on that record.
They don't miss. They don't
They
miss.
don't. And well, I wasn't really into their stuff before. I just knew them as just like a really hard hitting extreme band, and their drummers, like well renowned of how like crazy tight he is and pushing it all the time. But they put out that song with the Despised Icon guest vocal on it, and it blew me the fuck away. And then on Friday they put out the one with the guy from Shadow of Intent.
Yep.
And that blew me away. And then I got on Reddit and I was reading around. And it turns out they're having a guest on every song on the record. And Googling it and seeing the guys that are on there, you're like, holy shit, this is going to be fucking nuts.
Yeah,
But
which
yeah,
is
it's
something
awesome
they've
so
never
far.
really done. And this is the thing that I love about this band is like every time they do something, they do something weird or awesome like that, where they get all these like guest people or like, I don't know, man. I don't know how they do it. The way they like keep that such consistent release schedule and like everything sounds solid and they don't get stale. Which is
Yeah,
crazy
and
to
the
me.
2 new songs, it's like the one with the Despised Icon. It feels like there's like good sections in there that were written for the Despised Icon guys, like in that style. And then you get to the one for Shadow of Intent. It's like, oh, this is a much more like straight death metal song.
Yeah.
Really badass shit. So I'm super stoked on that.
Something I wanted to touch on that you mentioned a lot of those records like Ashes of the Wake and This Darkened Heart.
Yeah.
So for my history episodes that I'm doing this year, I chose to do 2004.
Oh,
And
great year, dude. Yeah, that's
dude,
like the holy grail.
it's
Oh, yeah.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we're talking about metalcore here, and like all these records are celebrating a 20-year anniversary. And it's like it's literally like the year of metalcore. I know it, you know, it obviously started earlier than that, but like if you look at like all these bands and records that came out, like my list is just like insane
Here's
with what
one that
came
was on
out.
there. I saw there's a 20-year anniversary. I don't think it's a tour, but it's at least a show. I think it's up in New Jersey, and I think next month in March. But it was Shadows Fall, War Within.
Yep.
Holy shit, man. Like, I would love to go see that. But of course, when you see those 20-year tours, you're like, God, I'm fucking old, man.
No, that's what blew me away. I was like, oh my God, I was listening to this in 10th grade, 9th grade, somewhere around there.
Hell
I
yeah.
don't know. Lost track of time. But yeah, it's like those all these records were so formative for me. And I'm sure you guys, you know, mentioned Kill Switch and all that it's just like
Yeah, Into Hearted came out that year. I think it was like May.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
just like
that's a huge record for them.
the time that went by and seeing that Ashes of the Wake and
Unearth too.
yeah, Unearth.
Yeah,
what
Oncoming
Oncoming
Storm.
Storm.
Leviathan. They're doing the Ashes of the Wake Leviathan 20-year anniversary tour
Oh,
together.
that's gonna be
and like,
monster tour,
what
man.
the fuck? That's gonna be so good. But so the interesting thing about that, you know, is like you can look back 20 years ago and see all these metalcore bands, but the cool thing that I'm seeing recently as far as like the genre is concerned is like you're seeing a lot of those bands that maybe put out like one record, two records, and they kind of like fell off or disappeared or whatever, and now they're kind of making these comebacks. And on top of that, you have these new bands that are like copying, I guess, for lack of a better term, that sound that was around in 2004, like these throwback bands, so to speak. Um,
Not us though, right? I'm just kidding.
well, no, here's what I was gonna say is like,
Well, you know, we actually
thanks for putting me on the spot, buddy.
Well, no, I just saw it.
No. I was going
No, go
somewhere
ahead,
with
man.
that.
Sorry. Yeah.
No. Hey, I'm totally kidding. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
No, the crazy thing about that though is like, you know, you guys already the brothers and Jeremy, I'm sorry I don't know your entire band history. I do want to get to that eventually, but you know, the brothers, you guys already have kind of a history because you guys had Broadcast a Nightmare like way back in like 2007, 8, 9, you know, like you guys were around back then, so to speak. Not to call you old heads, you know, like, but we all are. We're all like the same
Isn't it
age. So
weird to call that music style like old? Like
it
that's
doesn't make any
retro.
sense. It
Isn't it?
doesn't make
Yeah,
any
it's weird.
sense. So that's what's like crazy for me is like seeing and hearing all these bands that are like emulating a sound from 20 years ago, like it's popular again. And it's like, well, what the fuck happened in 2004? Where, you know, like why
right.
wasn't it as popular back
I guess
then?
I guess we're just old, so we're playing what we think is current.
Yeah. We're playing what we like to what we like to hear.
And that's what I was trying to get at here is like, you know, it's obviously something you guys gravitate towards and have a passion for. And that comes across in the music, that authenticity of like, man, this is what we love to play and what we love to hear and what we're passionate about. So why don't we write that and why don't we play that? Whereas like I feel like there are some bands that are just trying to like ape off that style because they know that's what's kind of like popular right now. And I'm not like naming names or like bashing anybody. I totally have no issue with that. But it is kind of an interesting thing to see that that's what's going on in a current state of the genre a little bit.
Yeah, it's like bell bottoms. They come back every 30 years or so.
And my wife likes them. She's trying to get some now.
See?
She's trying to get some bell bottoms or some metalcore?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Some metalcore bell
not
bottoms.
the metalcore, just bell bottoms. But you know what's crazy is that our the first band we were in before Broadcast in Army Massacre, which was me and Kyle, we formed in 2004. It was like 2004 we did our first EP, and I think 2005.
Damn.
And we were just trying to ride that metalcore wave.
Yeah,
And,
our first practice was New Year's Day or Eve of 2003 going into 2004.
Damn,
Man,
what
that's
a
a long
time, man.
time ago.
But then like we took a long hiatus after Broadcast, and then here we are again trying to write some melodic stuff again that we wanted to hear. Because I mean we just wanted to write some stuff that like felt like was kind of missing in this, I guess, this era right now.
Yeah. Take me kind of through, like you guys deciding to like write music again and like finding all the members for the band and like, where everything kind of started from to where you're at now.
Okay, yeah, I could take that. So I was on my honeymoon in July 2022, and an incredible drummer had been reaching out to me and basically bugging me. And he's like, "Hey, man, like I really think that you should start a new band. I've got this the guitar player Jeremy that I think that you guys would mesh well together." And he'd send me like 2 or 3 texts a day, like every day on my honeymoon. All right, whatever. Let me hear this. And he's like, "Oh, it's called Faith and Ruin." So he sent me one of their EPs, and I thought it sounded good. I was like, "Oh, the guitar playing's good." I thought that the arrangement was good, drums were good. It's like, okay, I can dig this dude's style. Let me meet him. So he set up a text thread group with all of us, and that's how we met Jeremy, was through text. And I I would primarily write music using Tabit. Are you familiar with that?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like Guitar
Yep.
Pro, and I would export it to MIDI and just listen to it on my stereo or in my car. So I'm sure I got a lot of weird looks when I'm blasting what sounds like Nintendo music full volume in my car. But yeah, Jeremy enjoyed it, and he's like, "Yeah, like we should do something with this." And what really impressed me about Jeremy is he took those MIDI songs, and so I have no formal music education at all. I know no music theory, nothing. And Jeremy does. Jeremy's got an education, and he was able to take those MIDI songs because he doesn't have. I think he's got a Mac, so tab is not compatible, so he couldn't read the tabs, and he recorded on his own. It was like 2 or 3 songs that I'd sent him, and he recorded versions of them. I was like, "Shit, this is really like this is accurate." And okay,
Damn.
and you did this in like 3 days, so all right, this guy's the real deal. So Justin and I met up with him, and this drummer was supposed to play drums for us. And I don't want to disparage him. That's why I'm not going to name him. But dude fell off the face of the earth and completely flaked on us. But what I am thankful for is that he kind of like he introduced us to Jeremy, and I consider Jeremy now a really good friend and a
Yep.
great bandmate.
Making a lot of assumptions here, buddy.
You didn't say that last night. So, but from there, yeah. So I had quite a few songs in the bank, and I showed them to Jeremy. We threw them down in Studio One, and he put parts to it. He made him feel, it's like taking a house and turning it into a home. Jeremy did that with the tracks, and then he had a few that he wrote on his own, like completely on his own. I wasn't a part of, and it's like, dude, these are awesome, and they kind of feel in the same vibe, the same vein. So let's use them. And that's where the EP came from. I think we had like 1 or 2 more tracks that we had considered using, but we just decided on just going with a 6-track EP. And yeah, Jeremy and I think write well together. I come firmly from that old school, which to me is not old school, but that type of metal where there's a lot of like fast kind of thrashy power chords. I generally stay away from breakdowns. I'm not so any breakdown you hear on the EP, it's not me who wrote it. It's just Jeremy. But Jeremy adds like a layer of complexity to the music that I wouldn't think of, and I appreciate that, and I think it fits well with what Sunmancer's trying to be.
There's one track I want to touch on before that, Jeremy, let's talk a little bit about your, he mentioned you have like more of a traditional, like learned guitar skill. Let's talk about like your guitar upbringing, so to speak, and
Sure.
how you kind of turn that into this and your history with like playing music.
Yeah. So, I mean, so my dad was a guitar player, or is a guitar player. So when I was growing up, we had guitars around the house and everything. And I asked for a guitar every birthday, Christmas, electric guitar, wanted it forever. And wasn't until my sister's 16th birthday, they bought her a guitar.
Oh no.
And as soon as they came down there with it, I was like, hell no. Like,
that's mine.
I was like, I'm going to wait on her to not touch it for a couple days, and then I'm picking it up. And it's exactly what I did. It was a Epiphone Les Paul Jr. My dad had gotten for like $100 because he had bought another guitar at Guitar Center. So there was like a buy one and get this for a certain discount or whatever. So played the hell out of that guitar. Then I started picking up his guitars, and he was like, "All right, we're getting you a guitar because I'm tired of you picking up my shit." So picked it up, learned from a couple guys in the neighborhood that were already playing Metallica and Pantera and Megadeth, and just kind of learned some of the starter riffs from them, and before that, Smoke on the Water, that kind of shit. We don't have to start from day one here, but eventually I went to music school. I went to Atlanta Institute of Music, and met a bunch of guys there and got humbled. You walk in there and it's like you feel like. I remember for the first time in my life, I felt like guitar playing was not for me because I saw how fucking good these guys were. But after that, I was playing in a band called Faith and Ruin that I started with one of my best friends named Mike Dupree. He's the vocalist. Okay. And played with them. Let's see, we started that in like 2009, 2010. Bunch of shows, couple records with the help of my friend Patrick Snyder. And we're still writing some new stuff, hopefully putting out 2024, maybe looking more like 2025, but we'll see. And then met these guys and kind of met them at a good time. It was a spot where Faith and Ruin had kind of gotten to the point where, okay, we're not booking shows, we're just writing, done with the last record cycle. And I kind of gotten this feeling where it was like, I need to be busy playing guitar again. Yeah. And so when I got that group text that Kyle and Justin were in, I didn't even know I was getting involved in a band. It was just all I was told was, "Hey man, I'm gonna connect you with a couple of my friends. This group text, it's just about music or whatever." I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm just in a group text thread, like talking about bands or whatever.
I had the same thing happen to me. Like I got that random text one night.
Yeah, so it's like Kyle and this other guy were the only people that really knew what was going on, but.
He was relentless, man. He would not let it go.
But like, said nothing to me or apparently Justin.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just like,
he bugged the shit out of me about it. And it's like, all right, sure, whatever. It was when he sent me the Faith and Ruin music, I was like, okay, this, pretty legit. I'll entertain the idea. So Jeremy in the text message is like, who are you guys?
Yeah. So, but as I kind of let the conversation develop or whatever, I got those first couple tracks from Kyle, which he was saying was just MIDI tracks, and recorded them myself. And I basically wanted to show them like, okay, if we're going to start a project, let me show them what I can do. And just using my studio setup, my demo setup, and, I went ahead and wrote drums for everything. He had drum ideas on it, but I went ahead and put what I thought would sound like, a realistic version of what this project could be. Learned his stuff and kind of added to it, like he was saying. Then it was time for, all right, I want to write some songs based on the idea of what I think this band should be. And that's how I ended up writing my material for the EP. But yeah, the whole process was really cool. It was fun. Like I've never had another guitar player, or I've never kind of joined up with another guitar player, like joined forces, so to speak. And Kyle's really, really good. Immediately when I met him in person and he brought his guitar over and everything, I was like, okay, this dude, he plays at my level, and kind of also learning how to let him be himself and me be myself without kind of like having one guy control all of the creative aspect of everything. But I think we've done a pretty good job of bringing each other's flavors and, letting his style breathe, letting mine breathe. And then also the parts where we come together, I think kind of make the record.
So I think that's really important too, like having that collaborative effort where it's like, hey, I bring this to the table and you bring this to the table. Let's figure out our middle ground here and work off that, where instead of just being like, no, this is what I want to write and we're writing this.
Yeah, we kind of keep each other in check. We just generally make fun of one another on a part that we don't like. Like there's parts like where I've written something, I send it to them, and I'm expecting or hoping for like praise. Like, yeah, Kyle, this is awesome. They're like, could you be a little more kill switch? I think I don't hear it enough. And there's stuff that Jeremy has done, and he's and one thing he sent like a little pick scrape thing. We're like,
We're gonna use it anyways. You'll see. I'm gonna make it even bigger.
Yeah, I'll just punch it in. You won't even notice. Just edit it in there. No, I think the craziest thing about that whole story that you guys told me is the fact that, like, you mentioned the drummer guy just kind of like disappeared, but somehow you guys still ended up making, a whole. In fact, if you don't mind, just real quick, like, who were the other members of the band for the listeners out there?
So the other members, so it's the three of us, and
Mhm.
then a fella named Dan Nelson is our bassist, and then Ramon Relum is the drummer, the sweetest, giantest Dutch person that you'll ever meet. He's the nicest dude ever, and that guy not only can he play drums like a madman, he kind of looks like Animal, that Sesame Street character.
Yeah.
When he's playing with his wild hair, but he can sing too. He's like Freddie Mercury meets Maynard James Keenan.
Does he do some of the cleans on the record or the EP?
So the EP, that was really just the three of us.
Okay.
And once we finished that, we were kind of shopping out, like, all right, well, homeboy.
Well, hold on. So
us.
we had our friend Patrick Snyder do the drums on the EP, but he was not part of the band. So as far as like who was, we went to go find a drummer who could play these songs with us after that.
Yeah, which we went and looked everywhere, and I ended up finding Ramon on this random musicians classified website called Bandmix. I paid for a month and just shot messages out to all these drummers that I thought looked like they might want to play our music, and just sent them a message like, hey, check out our old band's broadcast in Faith and Ruin, and if you dig it, we got some new material if you want to try out what we're doing. And that's what happened with Ramon. He learned one of our songs, Descender, in 3 days, I think, right?
Yeah,
3 or 4 days.
sent us a video.
Send us
very
a video.
Similar to how Jeremy did it.
And we're like, holy shit, this dude he's badass. So, and then he learned I think 2 more songs really quick, and then we're like, all right, we got to meet this guy.
Yeah, Revolver and Descender. And so we met up. So we've known Dan for years. He played in a band called On Paradise Boulevard, and I think a couple other ones, but we're all part of that local scene for years in the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah,
and
scene.
Yeah, Dan's a cool dude. We always liked him, so reached out to him. It was actually the day that we met Ramon in person, and I called him. Dan likes to talk on the phone. He's a dude that'll keep you on the phone for 2 hours. But I called him and offered, like, hey man, I think that you could fit. Why don't you try out for bass? And it took convincing, like hardcore convincing for him to be interested. But ultimately, he ended up sending us an audition tape and audition video. But it was good. He's a fan of punk stuff.
Well, no, he's a fan. He's not really he loves his favorite band's Poison the Well. So
nice.
Me and Dan actually have another side project that we're working on right now, and it's more along the lines of Poison the Well type stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we connected with him with Sunmancer, because me and him were working on stuff ourselves, and then Kyle was like, hey man, why don't you see if Dan want to do this? And I just texted him and was like, hey, would you want to play bass for us? He's like, actually, I think I would. And it just worked out that way. So it was pretty rad.
Yeah, he's been a great fit. Super cool dude and a really talented guitar player. So putting him on bass, it's kind of, it's an easy gig for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually what happens with us guitar players. It's like, we can do both.
Yep. Yeah. Funny story. Mentioning this before I forget. Back in 2009, I actually put in a bass audition for Broadcast Nightmare, and it went nowhere.
Yeah, it got lost in the void of our broadcast email, which I found. I found his audition video, probably a couple months ago.
And, yeah, I'm not allowed to access our email or our social medias because Apparently,
he
I
ghosted
read
him.
them and I don't respond. I didn't. Apparently, Misery Signals had sent something to. Was it an Irony Massacre, Justin?
No, it was broadcast
Oh,
MySpace right when we were
and
like coming out with right when we got signed to Sumerian, and they're like sending us a message like, "Man, you guys are pretty awesome." And I guess Kyle just didn't. I don't know. He didn't register who Misery Signals was, so he just then never responded. And I saw it like maybe a week or two later, and I'm like, who saw this? Like, oh, I didn't know who these guys were.
I don't remember that at all. But I'm not allowed. So I'm not allowed to do anything on our social media or email.
Okay.
He'll
So
figure it
speaking
out,
of
dude.
unmute, Justin got these real nice in-ear monitors and was super excited
Can
about
you hear
them.
me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
And he when we
How do you
all,
zoom?
when we all
Right.
came to practice like last weekend, he was so excited to be able to use them. And the wireless set wouldn't stop saying mute.
Yeah, it was very annoying. I spent like the first two sets just sitting there messing with these freaking transmitter and receiver. So needless to say, I'm still trying to figure that out because I left my stuff with Dan because we practice at his house, and he just now gave me all my stuff back last weekend. So now I'm trying to figure it out, and then I'll be good to go with our next rehearsal.
Technology, man. It's hard to keep up with because like something's always changing and there's always something new that you have to learn and figure out. And like, especially with guitar and I see a lot of bands like having like full laptop setups now for like their axe effects and everything else. And it's just
Mhm.
like, man,
I
if that
think we
goes
went and
down,
when we saw Counterparts last, they didn't have a bass player,
The
and then
bass player's a
Justin.
laptop.
Yeah, that's crazy, and they sound so good. They're such a good band.
yeah, they're one of my favorite bands. I love that band so much. So getting kind of back to you guys and what we were talking about, Justin, what I wanted to kind of ask you as far as like uh vocals and everything, how do you approach like the harsh vocals versus clean singing aspect of the metalcore? Like where do you kind of come up with those aspects of it?
Um, it's it's just random, man. It's like some just random stuff that just pops in my head when I'm like going through the writing process and the vocal patterns of like the lyric. Like once they have like a song that's like fleshed out to where it's like they're not gonna mess with it anymore, then I'm pretty much like cooking, I guess. I'm like
Yeah.
trying to get
Let him
lyrics.
cook.
Yeah, I'm trying to like get everything situated with the patterns. I mean, a lot of like just um driving around, like especially now, like just carpooling, like with the kids and everything, just like trying to work out melodies, especially for the choruses, just like in my head, or just driving around with trying to see what will work. Like Fatalist, that last song on our EP, like I spent hours in my car driving back and forth to work and everything, trying to get that melody to work right with Jeremy's lead right there because it's so high and I don't really sing that high. So it was to me it was frustrating, but they're like, "Oh man, it turned out amazing," and I'm like, I don't know. I think it works, but it was very frustrating for me. But overall, dude, I love the whole process of actually like creating these melodies and creating these patterns and writing the lyrics and everything. I think it's just goes back to like the influences I have, like watching Glassjaw or Deftones or even like Meshuggah, like their early stuff. Like I was really
Yeah.
big into Chaos Fear and or like Hopes Fall and like I mean I was all over the place. So like just getting like influence from many of those bands and just made my own I guess my own cup of tea with it.
Dude, I actually saw Hopes Fall is about to start playing shows again, or at least like a couple like one-offs, which is fucking
Yeah, they did.
crazy.
I think they did Furnace Fest last year. And it's
Yeah.
like they're doing this whole I think they repressed Satellite Years. It's like Satellite Years
Yeah.
2.0 or something like that. And I saw them with Dillinger back in the day when they were still touring on Satellite Years. It was like Dillinger, Hopes Fall, Since by Man.
Yeah.
I think Norma Jean was on it. when they had that Brad Vegas guy singing for him. And then but yeah, me and my buddies drove to like South Carolina to see that because Dillinger never came through Atlanta. And
For a
I
long
wanted to
time,
see
yeah.
Hope's Fall as well. So yeah, that was like back when like a lot of this good band, because I really wanted to see the Blood back then. The Blood would never come through Atlanta for some reason.
Yep.
And same with Every Time I Die. Like whenever they were touring with like Last Night in Town, I was like, I really wanted to see them so bad, and they just never came through Atlanta back then. And then like they finally did in some little crappy like VFW hall with, I think it was like Every Time I Die, Unearth, Evergreen Terrace, and like I don't even remember the other bands, but it was so crazy because it was like some of the shows that we were doing when we were local bands, and then like seeing them, like there was no stage. It was like it was just a floor. And like I remember when Every Time I Die was playing, is like I think the PA went out and like Keith had to start like just yelling yelling out at the crowd.
God, man,
So,
that's
Yelling
that's
out over
something-
drums.
yeah.
Yeah. That's something I think a lot of people don't understand about shows back then. It's like that chaos, that level of chaos of like you never know if you were going to get to see, you know, a band play their full set because of like some sound issue or just something at a, you know, especially if it was a smaller DIY venue. Like,
Yeah.
man, I always love it, especially around here where I'm at. I'm in Chattanooga, which isn't, you know, too far from you guys. And like, we had Whitechapel, who were like a local band for a
Yeah.
long time. And man, I remember some of their first shows, like, you know, they would get to doing their fucking gnarly breakdowns, and then like stuff would just stop working, and you would hear like the drums and the bass, but then there's no guitar, no vocals, and you're just like, huh, okay, this is cool, I guess. But it was just the chaos of it, you know. It's I loved it.
Yeah,
don't
dude,
really get
you're seeing like Job for a Cowboy at a church or something.
Yeah.
That era was so crazy though, and it got so I feel like it was really the grassroots of that time that like made metalcore like so popular, because every young kid at every high school in every bumfuck town had, you know, some deathcore metalcore show going on at a church on Friday, you know. You never would have thought that something like that would happen. And if you're from like Los Angeles or something, you might not think that that's possible. But that kind of is. There were bands that would do whole tours where they're hitting little venues where VFWs and churches and shit.
That's what
and I
we
see
did.
like 856 posts
That's what we did.
post sets all the time of
God
churches and shit.
We were on tour with Pleaver Persian and For Today, and we played every little crappy freaking church and VFW hall. But I mean, the ones like there was one in Iowa, and it was insane. There was like, I think there is at least like 1,000 kids there, and they're all doing like the unison head bang. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
one of the
wild.
hottest shows we've ever played.
No, I think Corpus Christi when we were on tour at Carnifex was.
Oh yeah,
the
that's right.
hottest show.
I dropped my pick in a solo, and that was so embarrassing.
But it was
I've
like
done a lot of embarrassing things on stage.
We don't have to get into all that. Not today.
I mean, hey, you know, that's
Yeah.
just fun to talk about.
he fell on a drum set during a God Forbid show we did.
Yeah, as soon as we started a song, I tripped and I fell right into the drums, like knocked over all the cymbals. That was not only painful, but it was super embarrassing. Do you remember the old Masquerade?
Oh, absolutely.
Atlanta?
One of
On
my
North
favorite
Avenue?
venues, man.
Yeah, I love that venue. And we were playing Heaven with God Forbid was the headliner. Can't remember who else was there, but
We were
yeah,
just a local band
we
at
were
that
the
point.
local opener, and yeah, that was a humiliating moment. But whatever. I mean, that was close to 20 years ago, and I
Right.
can look back on it now and laugh.
Yep. I was gonna ask, like, you guys being in Georgia, you all remember the 7 venue, right?
Oh hell yeah!
We played there
Barbecue
quite a few
Fest?
times.
Oh man, dude. So yeah, BBQ Fest, man. That was like the first time I saw the Carnifex dudes. And
Nice.
Might
I
have been whenever we
remember-
were there. That because we did a tour.
Yeah, I think we played
and
there.
we
with
played the
them.
Barbecue Fest with Carnifex, Embrace the Inn, Arson, Skid All the Girls, Conducting from the Grave, and it was like part of
It
the
had to
Barbecue
have been.
Fest.
Yeah,
So that might have been the first time, that you might have seen us then too.
it's possible, man. Yeah, it's so crazy because like that venue was so strict on all the bands
yeah.
that they would let play there because of like, you know, the religious stuff.
Yeah, they would give
And-
you a whole spiel before you went on, like before the show started, like no curse words or anything, but they would have like big acts come through, like Amir and Born of Osiris are going to play.
Yeah.
And they're telling these guys, like, hey, make sure there's no cursing in there.
But I
Not
think
the words
everyone
out of my mouth, man.
followed
You
it.
knew where I was going with that.
Oh, yeah,
I
dude.
think
Yeah.
everyone followed it because Tony, the venue owner, the guy who always wore that train conductor cap, he was like super cool, and they always fed the band so well. They're always so nice. That was probably one of my favorite places to play. So I think it was really easy. Like if Tony had asked, like, "Yeah, don't cuss," like bands would follow.
I think I screwed up one time, like trying to be like, get this pick going, motherfucker. What? Did something, and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh man, I was like trying to push the mic away from me because I knew I just said like the F word. We had a shirt that said Riffer Madness, and it was like a marijuana propaganda type shirt, and they like said you can't have that because it had like a little weird cartoon
the pot
picture of
leaf
the
on
devil.
it.
Yeah, and the pot leaf on it. So we had to like hide that. Couldn't sell it there.
There was a time I got 2 stories I want to share with you. I'll start with the 7 venue one first. I wish my buddy was here to tell this story. Like he tells it way better because it actually happened to him. So I'm like second handing the story. I think I might have talked to you guys about this, or it got brought up in our conversation when we were, like all meeting each other. But do you remember the band with Faith or Flames?
Yeah,
Sounds familiar to me. Yeah,
I think Aaron did some art for them. Then they have like the double sided, like they got like the profile view of like some weird ghastly guy and then like a regular person. Yeah, our buddy Aaron Marsh did, I think, their cover art. So that's how I remember that name.
So they played the 7 venue a lot because they were doing that whole like Christian metalcore thing. But and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. This is like, well known for them. They like to smoke some weed or whatever. And I guess my buddy Weatherford was out smoking weed in their van, and the guy who owns the venue or somebody that worked at the venue was out there and called the fucking police on them. And they got arrested before they even played their set.
Whoa, at 7 venue?
Yeah, at 7 venue, man.
Damn.
Like, this was like kind of a local show. I think even like Plea for Purging or some, all those bands that were around this area.
Yeah, they were regional, but they were big.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like one of those regional big band shows.
Gotcha.
This was so long ago, and like I said, he knows the story way better than I do, and I hate that I'm butchering it. But like they called the cops on him, and like they were trying to arrest him, and like he got out of it eventually, but like they wouldn't let him play their set. They made him go home after driving, 2 hours down there and everything like that, and they were never allowed to play there again because of that shit.
Well, they weren't the only ones to smoke weed there. I mean,
oh, I know.
I don't know anyone in particular, but
yeah, it's so crazy that like all the the Christian venues you play. Because I was gonna say there's another time when I was with Carnifex, we played a Christian venue, and they made us cover up this shirt that said "just fuck you" all the way up and down it. We had to put like duct tape on it and everything. And then like they got on stage, played like 1 or 2 songs, and they cut the cord and made us leave. We were on tour with like Impending Doom at that time.
Sure, who sounds satanic, but they're not. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I was just like, wait, we have to leave? They're like, yeah, you got to pack everything up and go. I was like, what the fuck happened? They're like, we don't know, that they don't like us. We're quote unquote satanic. I was like, man, this is dumb. This is so dumb.
Damn. Hey, well, God bless them though. At least we got to do plenty of shows. Yeah, I mean, everybody got to do shows at those church venues.
Yeah, they it was a good point in time where like a lot of metalcore bands were writing that, hey, we're Christian, but not really, wave, so to speak. But we're a little off track here. We're here to talk about you guys. I want to know a little bit more about like recording the EP. You guys mentioned that you kind of like threw ideas back and forth over a guitar tab program, and then like Jeremy kind of wrote stuff out himself. When did you guys decide like, hey, we're gonna do this, we need to record all this stuff, and then like moving forward into making that happen?
Oh yeah, so we did that as soon as we met. It was kind of like, what kind of record do we want to make? How many songs do we want to do? We kind of agreed first day that like, let's kind of start with like a 6-song EP, and just let's crank something out and be able to focus on the quality of it. We ended up going to our friend Patrick Snyder, who I said earlier did the drums on it, but he also produced it, engineered it, mixed and mastered. So all of that was kind of set in place. So we met in June or July or something, and then we went and tracked all of this in December. of 22. So
Damn.
it all went pretty fast. That was kind of a really cool thing with this project. As soon as we all said, "Hey, we're down to do this," everything just we just started taking every step we had to do. And then we spent the whole next year kind of getting our bandmates and getting all of our social media assets, so to speak, our pictures and our music videos and guitar playthroughs and all that stuff, so that when it was time to release, we had all this to kind of show for ourselves and kind of jump on the scene looking professional. So and so far it's paid off. We look good, I think.
Yeah.
But we got the train rolling.
I remember us kind of talking about that a little bit. It's like you have to have so much stuff ready to get on the internet to play that game, to be like, hey, here we are, listen to us, give us a chance, because if it doesn't even look the slightest bit for professional, people are just going to be like, nah, I don't want to waste my time on that. What are you guys? Who are you? Like, I don't care.
Yeah, and once you get stamped as like an amateur local band, it's really hard for people to change their mind about you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't see that at all.
Exhausting.
I mean, doing this new thing with your life and, having a new band, one track, man, I mean, I love the whole EP, but the one track that stands out to me the most is Descender. That track is fucking sick, man. The way you guys do kind of like those palm muted harmonized like little notes in there, and then like the lead guitars and stuff. I mean, can you kind of take me through the writing of that track and like how you guys,
Yeah, so that was the first track that Jeremy and I actually wrote together. So
wow.
It's either Jeremy wrote an entire song or I wrote an entire song. And this one, it's like, hey, I've got these ideas. I have no idea what to do with them. And he's like, well, let's just like throw them down. So I did. And then he sent me some stuff back and he's like, hey, this is what I have. And keep in mind that all I threw down were like 4 or 5 riffs, and they were in a completely different order.
Yeah, no drums, no nothing. It was just his guitar.
So then, yeah, Jeremy filled it out, added the chorus, and then he added the lead at the end. That it made the song. And so that right there, hearing that song cemented for me. It's like, all right, shit. Like I think that this is clearly we have a good working relationship. It wasn't like battling back and forth. There were no egos there. Like, oh, well, I wish there was more of my stuff, or he, feeling like, oh, I wanted to be a bigger contributor. Like, I feel like that one was like an equal contribution, and it turned out great. Honestly, that's my favorite song on the EP too.
Yeah, it's a rad track, man. I love like harmonic stuff. So like, that one little part, and you don't really hear guitar parts like this too often, like maybe with like counterparts like you mentioned, or I think Shai Hulud has a song that's like that, with like that really like palm muted harmonic, like little chuggy parts, man. Like,
yeah, you're talking. Jeremy wrote that part.
It's I was thinking more of like that Black Dahlia Murder nocturnal stuff. You don't think of it because Justin's vocals are so different than that, but that was kind of the idea when I put that down. It was kind of simple, but I was like, ooh, this is kind of that harmonized Black Dahlia palm muted death metal riff, but it ended up being kind of the most melodic part of the song, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's, I mean, the whole EP, man, like it really reminds me, like I'm sure you guys mentioned, with like stuff that you grew up listening to and stuff that I grew up listening to, and it's really nice to kind of like have that modern day version of it, I guess. I don't, it's weird to think of, like we talked about, it's weird to think about that, but it's cool that bands are still trying and wanting to do that. It's like somebody trying to do Judas Priest nowadays. It's like,
yeah, sure.
Would it work? I don't know, maybe, but do people want to hear it? I don't think so. But metalcore, I feel like people are still just like nostalgic for it in a weird way.
Yeah, and everyone who was 15 back then, has a career and a job, and they can actually afford the T-shirts and all that shit now. So it's not a bad market to get into. But also, like
the T-shirts, though, man, T-shirts are expensive as fuck now.
That's true. Well, I figure, compared to back then, you had no money at all. So
yeah, that's why we're not doing long sleeves. Because those are way too expensive.
Printing those are too much. But we'll get there. But I was gonna say, like, another thing with bringing back like this style, if you're going a band like us in 2004 at the level that we're at and the connections that we have, we wouldn't be able to have a good quality sounding record back then. Like, think about how hard it was to get like a really good studio to record you, to get something that sounds as good as like Ashes of the Wake or Fall of Ideals or something like. Uh, Guys like
Thrill
us, we wouldn't
Seeker.
be able to do that. But the way that technology is now, like we can go to a lesser known guy who has the gear and the talent to do it. So like hearing this style, like just in the good production era, is a cool thing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
our case,
technology
we
has
got
made that, like-
talent. The Pat who produced us, he's a very talented man. I enjoyed working with him. Speaking of which, I do want to
Did
put
I
a
meet
plug
him?
for.
I think yes, you did. You met him. So
Yeah.
when we met you, you were it was just me, Justin, and Kyle, and my wife was there. And then the next
Right.
night, you were at the next show. I think that was that Between the Buried and Me.
No, it was Dying Fetus, Acacia Strain,
Oh, and Despised Icon.
Despise. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, man, that was a hell of a
Pat's the
night.
giant, the giant guy.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
He's
So,
like 6'8".
oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty sure Jeremy, you introduced me to him, and he was like
I
very
did.
humble. He was like, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah,
I
he's
was
like that, but no,
dude, you
he's
gotta
the
take
shit.
fucking credit.
Yeah, he's the shit. I give him all the credit, man. Like, he made us sound really good, and being able to go to him definitely gave us a good head start, because going and finding band members and people to, do music video or pictures of you, like to get them to believe in you, being able to have a product like that behind you is huge.
Yeah.
So we should probably plug his band while we're
Oh
kissing
yeah,
his ass
yeah,
real
yeah.
quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Patrick, he plays in a band called Hollower, which is really badass. You can find it anywhere: Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. But he's the main dude. Writes all the guitars, plays all the drums, does all the production. But it's super badass shit. He's crazy talented.
See, that's another thing I love about technology is like now you can have one dude who does everything in a band, and like everything's there for him to like write guitar, write drums, write bass, do the vocals.
Oh
And
yeah.
it can sound as good as anything that's come out in the past 30 years. Like,
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
it's so
He doesn't
great.
have to compete with other guys or like deal with the relationships with other guys or other guys' weaknesses, as far as their skill level and stuff. But at the same time, like what's cool about Sunmancer is we do have 5 guys, and we are getting on stage, and which is something that's becoming harder to find.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I wanted to go with this next. Like what is the plan? Like, what do you guys want to do with everything? Is this going to be like mainly just a studio, play local shows? Are you guys trying to tour? Like, what do you want to do with everything now?
You want to take that, Justin?
Sure, man. I think what we want to do is we want to play shows that are gonna mean something to us, like because we're all like grown ass men that have families and
Yeah.
jobs and everything. So we're like, that's why we're like trying to like space it out with everything. Like we got like 2 shows in the works right now. We had a 3rd show that was actually going to be in Chattanooga, but it fell through just because all of us just can't align our schedule. Like it's hard to align our schedules with all 5 of us when we're all like I said, we have families and got careers and everything.
Yep.
But I mean, we want to like make this something special and something that like we're proud of and something that we can like put out there for people to hear and watch and like, enjoy. So, I mean, we do want to take this seriously. It's just going to be a matter of when the right opportunity to play certain shows or festivals, like that's really where it comes down to. Cause we're going to like do a whole like timeline of like releasing, like we have another single in the works that's aside from the EP that we released, and we're going to release that with like some little bells and whistles too. We're just trying to like do the new approach with the new landscape of social media, just try to build our following up, and we're just going to see how that goes. We got a bunch of stuff in the works, and we'll see how this new year takes us, and hopefully people will still want to listen to us, with all this new stuff we're coming out with.
Yeah, it's about being selective in the shows that we pick. Making sure that it's good for people who would want to come see us, and for us that we're not spreading ourselves too thin. So speaking of which, another plug is that we're playing Blackstrap Rock Hall in Gainesville on Saturday, April 6th, 2024. So if
Ooh,
anyone
okay.
wants to come, hopefully they'll be there. So that's actually our first live show as a band. But, you know, we all have experience playing live before. And we rehearse like mofos. So we're fingers crossed that it's going to be a good show. We've got other opportunities lined up. And like Justin said, there's a single that we're going to have to release. We believe we may do a music video with it as well. And then in the future, like we're going to have a steady stream of releases, maybe every 6-8 weeks, because we've got a ton of material that we're sitting on now. And the landscape is so different than what it was 10 or 15 years ago, where it was about putting out an album or an EP and then touring heavily in support of that, where now social media carries everything. So you write a song, you release a song, and there's so much that you have to do for media content to keep these 5-second attention spans. That's exhausting. And it's like, well, okay, well, do we want to do, you know, for example, do you want to do a guitar playthrough video? And it's like, man, yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool, it's content, but it's like, man, who wants to watch that? Like, unless that we're real big. And
I want to watch that. I love guitar playthrough videos.
Yeah,
and
me too.
for,
that's why we made one, and I'm
and for
proud
us,
that we did.
Man, I love that shit.
Hell yeah!
It's deciding on, all right, well, do we just want to mime, which is, you know, it's fast, it's a lot faster, or do we want to put out a playthrough where it's actually us playing, like you hear our audio, and it's not really, I mean, it's mixed, but there's like the mistakes are there, and like there's not really any cleanup, but that takes a lot more, you know, effort to do. And you know, in order to put stuff out, that's I would have to say, and maybe I'm getting off on a tangent, is the biggest change from, you know, when we were doing this 10, you know, it was like 2007, 2008, that this is the biggest change, is that, geez, all this content you have to put out.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I just recently learned how to post a story. So like, I am so bad with this stuff. And Jeremy's really good at it. Justin's really good at it. So I'm glad that they helm the Sunmancer Instagram page. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And so sometimes like one of them will have an idea. Jeremy in particular will have an idea of like, hey, you know, I'm kind of bored at home. It's Halloween. I've got an idea. I've got these stupid masks in my house. How do you guys feel about a 30-second video? Like, all right, yeah, let's see it. And like, yeah, this is awesome. Not only did I think the riff was cool that you chose, but it's funny. And yeah, so I'm glad that we have these people who are like in our group that are really good at these certain things, especially the social media aspect of it. Because if I was to do this on my own, but I would look like a crappy local band, because I don't have the forethought to think of these kind of ideas that Jeremy and Justin have.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, even from my perspective, man. Like trying to figure out how to get a podcast out there. Like, you know, it's all audio and interviews. Like, how do you show the video? How do you show the audio? How do you, just from an image of who's on, like get somebody to want to listen to it? And it's just like it, you know, especially taking a hiatus for as long as it did, like getting people to come back and listen to it. It's like a weird. I don't know, man. Like, cause yeah, like you said, attention spans. Like now it's like shorts. You want to do like little clips of stuff, and it just like I don't know how that translates anymore. I think that, you know, talking to and meeting you guys, like that was a really cool moment to be like, oh shit, we know the same people. We've been in these same circles, and we know like how a lot of this stuff runs behind the scenes, and we've all been around, and it's cool to kind of talk about that and like have that camaraderie, you know, and that goes a long way for me too. So that's why like I was like, I gotta have, like, if I do this and I bring it back, like I gotta have these guys on, because like you guys were like kind of integral in like pushing me towards that. So I want to thank you for that, first of all.
Of course,
dude, yeah.
That was,
I thought it was cool. Yeah,
cool.
when we met you and you were talking about the podcast, and then when we looked it up and I saw you the next day, I was like, dude, you have to get this going.
Yeah, you said a lot of kind words, and so did your friends, man. And I was just like kind of taken aback. I was like, oh, what? This is
Hell
so
yeah.
weird. Like,
Yeah, I was naming off some of the guys that you had on to just my friends who I've been going to shows with since I was a teenager, man. And they were all like, holy shit, no, you do have to keep doing this.
yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of work trying to get it back up and running. That's why I wanted to wait until the new year. But yeah, I think it's, I think I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things. It's been fun, like talking to everybody and like getting these interviews going and everything. The weird thing that kicked it off is, like I mentioned, I do a horror podcast. I had an interview with a guy and like it went super well, and I was like, man, I fucking miss doing this. I miss talking to people and like having these cool conversations about music or movies or whatever, and like figuring out all the ins and outs of like how things are made, and that's fun for me personally. And I'm sure, I don't know how you guys feel about it. It's like, yeah, I got to go talk about my band, but I think having this information out there is important too for people to hear. It's like, this is how something was made. This is how everybody met. The history.
Yeah, all good, dude.
I like the email subject. This is the new Zoom.
You got to
New
differentiate.
Zoom. Yep.
Let it make sure we not go into the original one.
Yep.
It gives you time to play with the settings in Zoom.
Oh man, yeah. This is something that like took hold right after I kind of like quit doing the podcast. So like trying to figure out all the stuff in this. Oh my God, you're on a beach.
Oh my God, dude! There he goes.
Did you just like Goku like
instant transmission, baby?
Holy shit!
His mustache keeps growing and disappearing too. I don't know if you've noticed.
Kyle, I wanted to tell you this when I met you, but I don't know how familiar you are with the Whitest Kids You Know, but you look identical to one of the guys in that group named Sam Brown.
And nice.
Not the one that got killed, right?
No, not Trevor, unfortunately. R.I.P.
I remember the sex robot. What does it want? It wants the sex. It's still fucking out there.
Nice.
Well, they call us police.
He reminds us of Jared from The Office, or Jared from Silicon Valley. That's where we.
Oh man, that's a good one too. That's a good one.
And I don't guess he doesn't see that because he hasn't seen Silicon Valley yet. But I keep trying to tell him to watch it.
You should watch it.
I think he looks like Gumby.
Yeah, Gabe from The Office and Jared from Silicon Valley.
Well, you guys gotta make fun of me like that, right?
You just look like all these famous people, man. You should be an impersonator on the side outside of the band.
There you go.
All right. I might keep that in. I might edit it out. We'll see. So kind of getting back to everything we were talking about. Justin, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about like vocals. Arguably the hardest thing to maintain in a band. I mean, if your vocals go, that's kind of devastating. So, doing this as long as you have, like, how do you maintain that like harshness and still being able to do like kind of like some singing stuff? Like, what's your, like, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to let you answer that, and then I'll ask my other thing there.
Yeah, man. I think it's just the way that I scream, because like my scream's actually really quiet and I'm able to control it. And if anything, if I'm screaming all day, like especially if I'm recording, like I'll just get like a headache, like a minor headache. Like my voice never really goes out. And so like I never really had issues with like singing. Like the only issues I have is like trying to stay on key, like because I can go flat singing, obviously. But with screaming, I've never had an issue. Like, I don't know if you remember like the broadcast songs with Vigil, but he came in like from Ghost Inside. He came in and did like guest vocals on 2 of our songs, and his voice is just so much louder, and that's how a lot of, I guess, screaming vocalists are. They got that loud like projectile, just projecting like scream. And he's always told me back in the day. I mean, I don't know how he is now, but that like he always had to worry about his voice because he thought it was going to blow out. And I've had a lot of friends like that too. And I've never had that issue just because I think the way that I scream, I have like I read a a review of our EP recently, and someone mentioned it as a desperate rasp, and I was like, I guess that's what it is, a desperate rasp. But yeah, I just the way that I scream, I just never had an issue with like it ever going failing on me. And I try to like warm up, you know, I do a lot of little exercises or just like singing along or screaming along to whatever stuff I want to listen to or like whatever bands that I'm into at the time. Like I mean I can sit there and scream all to all the counterpart stuff like any of their discography. I love
Yeah.
the way that dude throws down. But yeah, I just that's usually the way. I mean, I don't do anything special or anything out of the ordinary. Like our drummer, he had a whole process of how he was singing, but his singing is so much louder than my singing. Like he projects like crazy loud. Like, and I don't do that. Like I sing my singing. Everything that I'm doing is just a lot. Like they just got to turn my volume up because I'm not that loud. So I think that's what helps me out, and how I never have issues with it, my voice blowing out, or I don't know. Hopefully, I'm doing it right. Maybe I am. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's good, and you know it's only very rarely happened in like the metal scene where you hear about a guy that like just screamed too much and blew his vocals out.
Yeah.
You know, it is something that is kind of a concern in our genre. You know, where you know as a vocalist, you're really doing like something with your body every single day. Whereas like you know, no offense to your guitar players and everybody, but like you know, if a guitar breaks, you can fix it. You can't
Yeah.
really fix a vocal cord without like doing massive surgery and everything like that. And
Yeah. And
I'm
unfortunately,
always fascinated by that.
unfortunately, I'm always like sick too. Anytime that we have rehearsal or like whenever we were recording our EP, like I was literally over like just got done being like sick for weeks and like was still like hacking shit up between takes and like I was worried about the singing because I was like, dude, my voice has been shot for weeks. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but it worked. And then Pat was able to like make me sound prettier than I really sound. So it worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to. And right now my voice is good. Like I'm like, let's record, let's do whatever we need to do because I'm not sick. But yeah, usually I always got some sort of sickness and like everyone's like, all right, we'll do a set with just the music, and then I'll jump in and do a set, and then they'll bounce back and do a set with the music, and I'll jump in and do a set just so my voice doesn't strain. Because before I got the in ears, like it's hard to like hear myself where we're practicing at because it's
Yeah.
just a small room, and you can hear me, but it's just bare, and I can barely hear myself. So I feel like I'm just straining my vocals trying to like hear something. But I
Yeah,
guess
I've
that's just
ran
an
into
issue.
that a few times too, man. Like trying out for bands because I'll go back and forth between like vocals and guitar. Like I like doing both those things. And like the few times that I've like tried to do vocals for bands, like I can't hear shit. I just hear
Yeah.
like everything else but myself, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. How does this sound? And it's just like, by
Yeah,
the way, shit.
and then you have earplugs in, and then just everything sounds
Oh,
muffled.
yeah,
So I'm really looking forward to doing the in-ear shift because, like, not to name drop, but we've been friends with ABR guys for a while, and JB actually
yeah,
like referred me to start using in-ears because he you know they've been using it for years, and I was like, well, I mean, what better example to use than to those dudes because they so I ended up getting the same exact stuff that they use and hopefully it helps us out with live shows because I've always had that issue when we played lives. I couldn't hear myself and I felt like am I screaming right, am I singing right, like so hopefully now having this stuff once I finally figure out how to use it all we'll be able to take our live performance to the next level.
yeah. That's really
Dude,
important too, man. And I'm glad to hear that you guys are like really, you know, taking into consideration everything that's out there now and using it to your advantage. Of like, we need this, we need to do this, and like also having those people that are like helping you out. You know, speaking of bands that never miss, I mean, ABR, goddamn, how do they do it?
They've
just
just
gotta
been
figure out
consistent.
how to turn the mute off.
Yeah.
Right.
People who are listening but not watching, who's that pretty dog there?
His name is Ghost, and he's an idiot.
But you know, people who are watching this on YouTube, you can see that beautiful dog. Oh,
Big old boy.
He's
So,
go down.
Also,
He'll be
Kyle and
back.
Jeremy, I want to talk to you guys about guitars. So you guys are reversed on my screen now. So Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. You got a bunch of guitars behind you, man.
Yeah, man.
What's your favorite shit to play? Like, are you a big gearhead? I mean, I see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8
dude, yeah.
guitars back there at least,
Got a bunch, dude. Yeah. I'm not exactly a big gearhead, but I'm kind of one of those guys when I buy a guitar, I kind of keep it in my collection. I don't really go and sell them to get a new one, but
Right.
My main guitar is this one over here. It's a black Dean ML79.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, I've been playing that since I was like 16. Added a bunch of shit to it, changed the bridge on it, changed the pickups in it. It's kind of been my main, custom guitar. I did all my recording on the Sunmancer EP with that. And then over on the other side is kind of the one I've been playing. Let me move out of the way here. And that is a custom guitar that was made for me by a guy named Mike Seabaugh. But that one is, so we basically,
what's the brand?
It's a Seabaugh. So it's, we customized it from ground up. The style of it's supposed to be kind of like a Gibson V, but it's got a little bit of extra pointiness to it. And a friend of mine, Alex of Vedician, made that pickup for me from Vedician pickups. But yeah, that's kind of my Sunmancer riffer now. It's kind of when I got it, I was like, all right, I'm going to do just a bridge pickup just for hard riffing. And that's what we're going to use it for. But yeah, I love that thing.
And Kyle, what about you, man?
I mean, I'm not a gearhead. I keep the things that I really like. So I don't have 8 guitars like Jeremy does. I've got one electric. Well, yeah, one electric. It's a comparison TAT model. I love that thing. Then I've got an acoustic there. Who doesn't have an acoustic? But yeah, that's this is my main axe.
Okay.
That's what I play through. I absolutely love comparisons. They're handmade Japanese instruments, and boy, do they sound good. This thing is the loudest thing I've ever played too. It is so freaking loud, and it plays like I mean it plays like a dream. But that's my favorite guitar I think I've ever owned. Before that,
Carvins.
Yeah, I played Carvins, and that was before they changed to Kiesel. It had a DC 127, and I had to sell it for
issues.
For reasons. Yeah, for reasons.
Real
but
life.
I miss that thing. I really wish I could get it back. Find the person who sold it. Yeah, find the person that I got it or I sold it to and get it back. But
I've had to sell multiple guitar over the years for like rent money and stuff because it's just like, well, this is the thing I have that's of most value here. I guess this is where we're at.
Dude, yeah. See, I've never been able to do that. And that's why I have all of my guitars because I've just never been, no matter how dire it gets, it's like, nah, I'm not.
You're smart.
What if I do want to play that again? But I got a bunch that I don't play, man. Like I said, I pointed out those two. Out of everything down here, I pick up the other ones every now and then. I got a Stratocaster I'll pick up playing jazz stuff, blues stuff, every now and then. But, I really could do without all of them except for those two.
Yeah, I only have 2 myself, and they're like pretty basic ass, like 7 strings for the most part. I mean, I've modified one of them, but the other one's just like the most basic Ibanez 7-string you can get, that I've had for like ever. But my other one I bought like during the pandemic, and it's a little better, but it just doesn't hold low tunings the way that I wanted to. It's got a lot of like weird fucking like neck issues and like
take it to a guitar guy, man.
Yeah, I always say that, and like my buddy who's like way more into guitars than I am, like always fucks with my guitar, and like it's good for a while and then it fucks up again, and I'm just like, I'll leave it alone, or like I'll just change the tuning. Usually that's what makes it better, is like I'll just up tune it to like A or something like that, and it's fine again. But if I drop it down, it don't like it. It doesn't
Yeah,
want
A
it.
is just not low enough, dude.
Well, I mean, truthfully, man, I play in like G, like normally,
Nice.
like that super low. Like I like playing like death metal stuff, so like really low death metal shit. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, it doesn't hold tuning, so I gotta put it in A most of the time, which is still fine. I don't mind A.
Sure.
It's good. Yeah, so Jeremy, I noticed you have a lot of like kind of like dime bag shaped guitars. Was he one of your like, I guess, favorite guitar players, so to speak?
Oh hell yeah, man. Yeah, no, he's my favorite guitar player. That's kind of what got me into being a metal guitar player. Like I said earlier, Metallica is kind of the first band that I heard doing it. But when I saw what he's doing and listening to those records, that's definitely what got me into it. So I kind of bought this one down here, this little orange one over here, when I was like 15. It was like my second guitar. And then I moved up to the 79, the black one, and I played it for so long that it's just gotten to this point where it is the most comfortable guitar shape for me, just because of the amount of hours that I put on it,
Yeah.
So that's definitely become like a staple of mine.
Yeah, man, it's weirdly enough, going into like the 2004 stuff that I'm talking about, it sucks because that's when he died. So
Yeah.
like I'm gonna have to talk about that on the history episodes, and I'm just like dreading kind of putting that out there into the world and like rehashing it. But it's been 20, almost, in December it'll be 20 years since he was fucking killed.
That's fucking
It's
crazy to think about, but
insane.
you're right. Yeah, man.
20 years.
But that's just another chapter in that pinnacle year for metalcore,
It was like
or just metal in general.
Yeah, it was like the metal 9/11.
I say
that
that's
because
the right way to.
I
Yeah, that's the right way to say it.
I remember where I was when that happened.
Me too.
I heard about it.
So when we were on tour with Carnifex and Embrace the Inn and Arsonist Girl the Girls, we were in Texas, and we actually went to Vinnie Paul's strip club, all of us.
Nice.
And
yeah, if you have a tour pass, you get in for free.
Yeah, so
I don't know if it's how it is now, but it was back then for us.
That is hilariously enough what happened on my first tour with Carnifex.
Nice.
They were like, we were in Texas, and they were like, "Hey, we can go to Vinnie Paul's strip club for free, right?" And we're like, "What?" Like, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so, like they knew, and they took us all there, and man, it was. I mean, I saw probably one of the hottest women in my life stripped to fucking domination. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, where else are you going to see that?
What strip club's going to do that?
Right.
So, I mean, this is obviously like a work of passion for you guys, and that goes a long way for me personally. And I love when guys are just like really, really into what they're making. You mentioned like, you just put out the EP and everything, and you're mentioning kind of doing like songs throughout the year. As far as like going into the future and playing shows and all that, like what, how do you see the next step basically? I know it's still like really early and you're still working on everything just from the EP, but like where do you guys want to take everything? I mean, I really want to know, like, are you thinking full length? Are you still just wanting to do the singles? Because you said you're sitting on a lot of material, so it's really awesome to hear that you guys are like super invigorated and like have all this stuff ready to go.
We're just gonna try to.
Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we're gonna have singles come out, and it's just gonna accumulate until we have like a couple songs left, and then make that like the album or EP for the next run, just so that it like builds up more momentum, and it like helps our Spotify streams and all that social media stuff, just because it seems like the best way to like put content out right now, because just dumping a whole EP out kind of like like Jeremy always said before,
blowing his load.
Yeah, we blew our load. It's done now. So we're just like, from what, because I talked to a couple guys that are in the industry, and they were like, the waterfall strategy, which is what we're trying to do, seems to be the best bet. And then like, as far as like just gaining new followers and listeners, and then like when we play shows, we gotta get content for that. You know, we got to get pictures, videos of that. We just got to keep constantly making content because we're not going to be like constantly playing shows. So we just want to, and we want to make sure that when we do play shows, it's going to be like an experience. It's going to be great. Like we're going to like put everything into it so that hopefully people will come out and watch us.
I think that the general consensus of the band is that we really just want it to be self-sufficient. We want Sunmancer to be like our business, and also allow us to live our lives kind of as we do now. And I think we're kind of set up to be in that spot. We're not there yet because we do spend a fair amount of money, but I think I could see that happening where the band itself, you know, the shows we play, the merch we sell, songs we sell, which is probably going to be not much, but that being a way for the band to make its own money to where we can continue to grow. But it will be, yeah, kind of an online thing, that social media presence, whether on Instagram or YouTube, and then playing shows where
like southeast, like mainly southeast. Like if there's some big stuff that happens in the, you know, and we get offered something that's like, man, can't pass that. We're gonna play with Kill Switch. Then,
yeah,
then, you know, then we'll
they want us to come out to Colorado or something. We'll do it.
We'll figure that out, you know. But when the time comes, but we're definitely not going to be like fishing for it. It's just we're probably just going to stick to the southeast and just be selective of what we do around here, around this whole within these like 6 states or whatever, and then see how it goes. You know, hopefully we can build us following doing that, and then you know, like you said, with the connections we have, hopefully that we can grow even more.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of reiterate this for people who are watching and listening. Like, seriously, go check these guys out and give them a chance. Like, if you were older, like all of us, or even if you're younger and like, you know, like really into this like quote unquote older sound, you know, go listen to them right now. Stop, just fucking turn this off. I don't care about this. Go get on Spotify or do you guys have YouTube?
Yeah, we have YouTube.
We should be on everything that you want to listen to music on.
Yeah. We just go fucking do it right now.
Yeah, we actually just released a new music video like 2 weeks ago. That's on YouTube. So and I don't know, I think Jeremy already talked about this in like a Twitch stream that we were in, but it was like the coldest day in Georgia.
Yeah, it was.
And it was really bad a few like weeks ago here. Like,
yeah,
you know,
and like
that's when we recorded it.
Holy shit.
we were waiting to do this video shoot for months because the guy that we were doing, we wanted to stick with him because we knew he was legit, but he had like a schedule we had to work with, and it was like, all right, well, we can do it on this day. So we did it on this day in January, and it ended up being like a day that was like 20 degrees outside, and we had to do it, and we did it in an abandoned house where all we had was like a, you know, generator to make power. So we're just
and two little space heaters. You could warm your fingers up a little bit, but that's all we had.
Yeah, Jeremy had these little pocket pads that we were all like shaking around and
hot hands.
Rubbing on our nose. Yeah, we had to rub them on our noses because man, it was so cold.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the noses, dude. Yeah,
but if you look at it, if you watch the video, you couldn't tell that we were freezing our ass off. We're just jamming.
Well, that was the only time we were warm.
Yeah,
was when we were rocking out. But it was a good experience. It was a great experience. So another plug would be, so the guy who did our video, his name's Justin West. And he's on Instagram at JDubs Workspace, and he's a really talented videographer. And if you know there are other bands who are looking to do videos, he's a great guy to go to.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of film stuff now, but that's the reason why we had to postpone our shoot because he was working on a film. But the guy that did our first video, Aaron Marsh, he was like instrumental in like helping us with all of our imagery. Like he did our logo for us, he did our artwork for our cover, and for like our EP and our singles. He did our first photo shoots of our band and everything. So he was just like a really good friend of ours that just was like, hey, I'll help you guys out. and it definitely came in handy. And I mean, we owe that dude so much, and so glad that he's on our side. And I know that dude's like, we're just like little crumbs to all the stuff he's doing. Because I mean, he's working with Teddy Swims and all these big guys, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, man, I'll help you guys out." Still, I was like, "Okay,
Damn.
you don't have
I mean,
to."
if you can think of like an album artwork in the 2004 to 2010 metal scene, Aaron probably did it.
Yeah, he did
Yeah,
the.
his name sounds familiar. I was like, why the fuck do I know
Well,
that name?
he was Sons of Nero. Do you remember Sons of Nero? Like
Yes.
he worked with Ferret, and like he did like the Unearth, Oncoming Storm. He did It Dies the Days, the Cative Choir. He did a lot of those albums from back then, and he actually did our broadcast album. He was one of the reasons why we got signed to Sumerian, because he just gave our demo to Ash, and Ash sent us an email, or I think he called us and was like, I want to talk to you guys. And I mean, it was instant. It was crazy, because we're like, all right, cool. I mean, we only heard of like Born of Osiris back then. So, I mean, we weren't really keen on like their whole roster, but I mean, we were definitely in the early days of Sumerian.
Hey, I'll tell you guys a deep cut that I found out. So Ash's band with Tosin, Reflux, their first album came out 2004.
Wait, Tosin was in Reflux?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think, remember John Mijos, the guy that we used to talk to? I think he was part of Reflux too for a while too.
It's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, John was our A&R guy when we were on Sumerian. Oh, really cool dude.
Your fucking mustache, man.
Mustache.
Hold on. If you guys don't like it, I'll shave it real quick. Give me a second.
No, I kind of like it, dude.
No, man, mustaches are in right now.
That's right.
It's like throwback.
I think Dustin and Jeremy actually have a mustache.
Yeah, because we're real men.
Yeah.
Is that a handlebar now?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of what you're talking about, man, artists, that's another thing I wish I could like branch out to as far as podcasting, because like artists are equally as integral to metal and like making like the package of everything. For a lot of bands, that used to be how I would pick something out in a fucking record store. I would go and
yeah, Jesus Christ.
Okay, I know the listeners can't see this, but this is the most hilarious shit. Kyle is now an AI dog.
Yeah, nice.
He's an AI dog. It's beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, right, to all you furries out,
those
there.
of you on YouTube who are watching this, you just got a real treat. I mean, this is. We just watched a man anthropomorphize into a dog. This is Animorphs in real life.
Yeah, Animorphs, dude. Hey, we're bringing everything back.
Now I'm at the beach.
Oh man, he is at the fucking beach. A dog on a beach.
Nice. That looks like Epstein's Island back there. What are you doing over there?
Oh man, you went real dark with it. Epstein Island. I went Lost Island. That's fine.
Hey, both are scary.
That's true.
They both got smoke monsters.
And they both have polar bears.
Oh man,
nice.
Yeah, I mean the art was like, a big part of this, and was a big part of our content, and it was getting all like gathering all that stuff up like freaking Lord of the Rings, man. Trying to get all this stuff in order before we actually put everything out and presented it in a nice, neat little package for the world to see. That was that's why we presented ourselves at the end of 2003 or 2023.
Yeah. Well, you would think by hearing us that we came out in 2003, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No, I mean seriously, that's the same thing I struggle with, is like trying to brand a unique kind of like art style to everything I do. Because like I went to school for graphic design, so a lot of my I do everything myself. Like, I don't do anything with anybody else, but like I know how much art is such an integral part, like I was saying, to metal bands and bands in general, that like, you need to look at a cover and associate it with a band. I mean, look at Cannibal Corpse using the same dude forever for every single fucking album cover. They have that guy. I'm blanking on his name right now, which sucks because I always know it off the top of my fucking head, but
Well, and their logo.
Regardless, the Sons of Nero guy, like I remember him doing like everything back in the day, and that's why I was like, why does that name sound familiar?
Well, it was him in Portland, the guy from Nora.
Yeah.
Those dudes, they were collaborating on all the artwork back then. But yeah, they did that in Faith and Flames album. They did a Girl Gonna Ghost album. They did and they did like any kind of album from 2004 to 2008 or whatever. I mean, he probably did the artwork for it. And what's
Aaron's
crazy,
a very prolific guy.
The way I met that dude was like I was going to a Masquerade show and he was just sitting on the curb. Like, remember that little brick wall that was like a little curve on the old Masquerade? Yep. And he was just doodling in his little pad. And I just went over there and I was like, and I was like, "What's up, man? What you drawing?" And then we just became friends. And then I saw him again at like in some little like social gathering with like some other bands, and then we just kept reconnecting and we became homies. But yeah, it was just him just hanging out drawing.
He actually played keyboard for us.
Yeah, he did. He played keyboard.
When it was right before broadcast. It was
a fun time.
Aaron's a great dude. He's an old good friend, and like especially when you being a graphic designer, I guess you would understand like seeing something like translated to like digital media. Like whether it's printed to shirts or an album artwork, but it's different than seeing it like pen and paper. Absolutely. And seeing the drawings that Aaron could do. Holy shit, this guy is talented. And he's like the most humble guy ever. Oh, you really like metal? Not at all. He's such a cool dude, and I'm so glad and grateful that we have him in our corner.
Yeah. Plugs.
All right, guys. We are coming up on our third 40-minute timeout here, so I think this is a good place to end it. I've had a fucking blast talking with you guys. I'm seriously glad we finally got to make this happen. You know, it's been since like October in the making. So
we need a shout out to Freddie, dude. He's the one that got us all together.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Fred listens, man. That was the main guy. He was like, I miss listening to your podcast. And I was like, oh man, thank you so much. I didn't expect you to actually listen to it. But
dude, he is one of the greatest dudes. Like out of that whole old world of our touring days, like he was one of the most legit dudes. And like I've been in touch with him all these years. Like when I wasn't doing the band stuff, I'd still go out and see him. Like he threw me in a damn crowd when Hammer Smash Face came on at Cannibal Corpse when they were on tour with them. He's like, "Fuck you, man!" He just pushed me up in the crowd, and I'm like crowd surfing in the middle of this crowd. Like him and my wife threw me up in the crowd, like right when Hammer Smash Face came on. I'm like, "All right, this is cool. I'll crowd surf to this right now out of nowhere." But I mean, he's an awesome dude. I love seeing that guy. He's such like a positive, man. And that was happy
man. He's a happy boy.
That was like the first dude, like, and that was the first tour we did, like all over the U.S., Canada, Mexico. Like we were with that dude. I mean, and that was rad.
I remember seeing all those posters in our trailer of like when I started touring with them of like, you know, all the bands because they kept everything, you know, or at least Fred did. Like he kept one of everything, and so like I would see all these bands and I'd be like, oh shit, and like now the BBQ Fest thing is like in my brain. I'm like, holy shit, I've saw you guys before, like I even toured with them. So it's like a crazy weird coincidence, connection. You know, that like man. We all were kind of in the same circles.
It's a small world.
Yeah. So with that, let's close it out. People listening, people watching, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? What should they expect next from you guys? Whoever wants to take it.
Jeremy, you want to take it?
Yeah. You want to do it, Jeremy?
Sure. Yeah. All right. You can find us Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that. Spotify. You know, if you want to hear the EP, go to Spotify. Those numbers really help us. Yes. And then check out the videos on YouTube.
Yeah, and we have a new single that's gonna probably be coming out in like late spring, and we may or may not have a video coincide with it. We're still trying to figure that out, but it's gonna have a lot of melody in it, like that little secret weapon we have with our drummer and his
Yep.
his
Yeah.
His
Encino
Freddie-
Man.
and his Freddie Mercury voice of an angel. He's gonna help out on a little bit of the vocal cords. So yeah, you'll see.
Big
It's-
things coming.
Yeah. So we're excited. It's definitely like more gonna be this is what Sunmancer is, because before, you know, it was just three of us with like the help of Pat helping us with like the drums and the production. But now that we have like a full 5 piece, like it's all of our heads put together. And yeah, I feel like we're like a legit real band this time.
Fuck yeah. Jeremy, Justin, Kyle, guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I hope everybody listening to this goes and checks you guys out immediately. Like seriously, you can't go wrong. I mean, like I said earlier, if you're our age or if you're younger and you're just wanting to find something new that's quote unquote old, go check them out on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, everything they just mentioned. Guys, thank you for doing the podcast. Seriously, this was so fucking fun. I had a blast.
Thanks for having us, dude.
Yeah, man, thank you for
I had
having
an awesome time.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin.